Today, we are glad to have a Dhamma Chat to deepen our understanding and to straighten our views. Once again, we are fortunate to have Brother Benny and Sister Buddhini to join us for the Dhamma Chat. Allow me to introduce our panelists for today. Brother Benny Liow is a well-known leader, especially among Malaysian Buddhists. He has served in various Buddhist organizations, led many international Buddhist events, and edited books. In 2007, Brother Benny was awarded the Nalanda Award for Dhammadutta services in recognition of his service in propagating the Dhamma over the past decades. Sister Buddhini Tan is the president of Nalanda Buddhist Society. She has served on the Nalanda Board of Management as honorary secretary and in the Nalanda Executive Committee since 2015. She is also a member of Nalanda Dhammadutta College. Now, let us welcome Brother Benny to share some opening remarks for today's Dhamma Chat. Brother Benny.
Morning, Ceylon and Mr. Buddhini and all of our fellow friends and colleagues in the Dhamma. Okay, so very good morning. As Brother Suilun has mentioned, I think we had 2 sessions of discussing the 6 sublime qualities of the Dhamma. And I think in my first session, I also mentioned that there are different ways of interpreting this word Dhamma itself. Right? But maybe for today in particular, and looking at the questions that I think some of you have submitted, we will look at the word Dhamma as the teachings of the Buddha. Okay, so maybe just a quick recap. Yeah, if we look at the teachings of the Buddha, we regard it as the Dhamma. Because Pali is Dhamma, and of course, if you are familiar with the Sanskrit, then it is pronounced as Dharma, Dharma, and it is basically encapsulated in the Four Noble Truths, right? And we know that the Four Noble Truths forms the very essence of the Buddha's teachings. So whatever tradition that you may follow, you find that the core of the Buddha's teaching has always been the Four Noble Truths. And it says that since the Four Noble Truths are well expounded by the Buddha, it is swakato. That's the first, that's why we said the Dhamma, first characteristic is swakato. Now, the Dhamma is also sanditiko, since the Dhamma can be realized in this very life itself. So we say the teachings of the Buddha, if we study, we practice, we can realize it in this very existence of ours itself. And thirdly, it is also akaliko, because it can be realized at any time. All right. So again, just as we can realize it in this very life, we don't need to wait till we are dead before we can realize the Dhamma. So it's at any time. So it is called akaliko. And I think the other explanation that we use for akaliko is that it is timeless. It is true for all time. Right. So that's the other characteristics. Now, then we have the other one, the next 3, we have Ahibasiko, right? It is called Ahibasiko because anyone can come and see, can come and investigate the Dhamma. And I think many of you also understand that the second of the 7 factors of enlightenment or of awakening is the Dhamma Vichaya, in other words, investigation of the Dhamma. So the come and see, the investigative part, it's a very important part, important role. Now, because Dhamma, or the teachings of the Buddha, needs to be understood and investigated within oneself, then it is opanayiko, right? So we say opanayiko, it leads onwards, because when one understood and investigated the Dhamma, it can only lead one towards one direction, the direction towards Nibbana, right? And as any wise person can realize this Dhamma, through wise consideration, so it is known as Pachatang Veditabo Vinyuhi, right? So the contemplation of these 6 great qualities of Dhamma, we generally use the word Dhammanussati meditation, right? Now, so if we look at the context of Dhamma as a refuge, right? Just as we say, we have the triple refuge, we have the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, right? So we can also look at the Dhammanussati in the context of the refuge that we take in the Dhamma. Now, because the Dhamma is well expounded by the Supreme Buddha, by the Sammasambuddha, so we say the Dhamma is swakato. Therefore, we take refuge in the Dhamma that is well taught. So we take refuge in the Dhamma that is swakato. Now, the Dhamma proclaimed by the Buddha can be realized in this very life itself. And because the Dhamma can be realized in this very life itself, so the Dhamma is sandipiko, right? As we mentioned earlier on. Because of that, we take refuge in the Dhamma because it is sandipiko. Now, the Dhamma proclaimed by the Buddha can be realized at any time, all right? As we say, it is timeless. It can be realized at any time. So it is akaliko. Because of that, you can say you take refuge in the Dhamma, which is timeless. And then the next tree, or the last tree, the Dhamma proclaimed by the Buddha is open for investigation, not just by humans, but by all categories of beings. For example, in the scripture, we read about even the Devas, even the Brahmas, right? It has no hidden agenda, right? The Buddha always says that his teaching, he doesn't have the closed feast of a teacher. So his teaching is always open, right? As you can see the image of the Buddha, the Abhaya Mudra, no fear, right? Posture, or the gesture, rather. So it is open, so the Buddha's teaching is open like the sun and the moon, which is free from clouds. You can put it in that way. And because it is open for investigation, so we say it is Ahibasiko. You can come and investigate. You can test it as the goldsmith would test gold under fire, right? It's the famous, well-known Tibetan expression. That's it. So because of that, I take refuge in the Dhamma that is Ahibasiko. Then the Dhamma proclaimed by the Buddha should be applied in one's life through listening, through reciting, through investigating wisely, and through practicing it. Right? So in that sense, it's a bit similar to the Benedictine Christian version of the Lectio Divina. Right? Some of you may know the divine readings in the Benedictine Christian order, right? The fourth stage. So here we are saying that the Dhamma proclaimed should be applied. So how do we apply it? Through listening, through contemplating, and then through wisely putting into practice. Right? So, and because the Dhamma can be applied in one's life, it is opanayiko. So you take refuge. We all take refuge in the Dhamma that is opanayiko. And last but not least, the Dhamma proclaimed by the Buddha can be realized by the wise who are honest, straight, irrespective of one's caste, one's race, one's clan. And because the Dhamma can be realized by the wise, each for himself, so we say it is pachatang veritabo vinyuti. And because of that, we take refuge in the Dhamma that is pachatang veritabo vinyuti. So these 6 qualities of the Dhamma, of the supreme qualities of the Dhamma, if we understand it, we put it into practice, then we find that it becomes a gem, a gem, a gem. Because of that, just like the Buddha is a gem, we take refuge in the Dhamma. Okay, so I think that kind of encapsulates briefly the 6 supreme qualities of the Dhamma, okay? Which I think Sister Buddhini shared the subsequent 3. Okay, maybe Mr. Buddhini, you want to add on what I've just said? Right. Just a short snippets of it.
Thank you, Bhavani. I think we can move on. I think that's very comprehensive already.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll move on to the question.
Sure.
Thank you, Brother Benny, and also Sister Buddhini. Really great sharing and a really great start to today's Dhamma Chat. I will be sharing some of the questions we received from our brothers and sisters. Dear friends, if you also have any other questions you'd like to type in today, you may also put them in the chat box to be addressed. So we go into the first question. As you can see in the chat box, can the understanding of Buddhanussati and Dhammanussati helps to reduce our sense of self? I find that having learned and knowing these 2 recollections for years, yet the sense of self is still just as strong, if not stronger at times. Maybe Brother Benny, you'd like to go first?
Okay. Yeah. So the question, the question is about when we practice Buddhanussati and Dhammanussati, does it help us to reduce our sense of self, right? So the question is, he found that having learned and know about these two recollections, yet the sense of self is still as strong, if not stronger, right? Okay. I think the first and foremost is that you see, the Buddha spent 45 years teaching, right? All right, and so his teachings come. There are different aspects of his teachings. Now, one very important aspects of the Buddhanussati and Dhammanussati, or even Sanghanussati contemplation, is that it helps us to arouse that faith or that confidence, right, in our practice, right? So I think faith is a very important role. If we don't have faith, then you find that it's very difficult to subsequently continue with our other practice. That is why faith is the beginning of the 5 spiritual faculties, isn't it? So I think when one practices Buddhanussati, Dhammanussati, first and foremost, it kind of inculcates or develops that element of faith or confidence in oneself. But that's not the end of everything. Once we have that faith in the Buddha's teachings, then we cultivate other very important qualities which specifically will help us to reduce our sense of self. And I think a very key important practice here is, for example, the practice of loving kindness and compassion, right? The practice of generosity, right? In fact, the Buddha says that dana, sila, bhavana. Before dana is generosity, so one practices generosity, then one follow up with morality or ethical conduct, and then one cultivates the mental aspects. So if one continuously practice generosity, one practice compassion for others, instead of self-cherishing, one cherish others. So over a period of time, then we find that that sense of self will eventually be reduced, right? If you are familiar with the teachings of the late Achan Buddhadasa, in one of his teachings, he said that if you summarize the essence of the Buddha's teachings, it actually boils back to three words: do not be selfish. Right? Do not be selfish. Okay. So I think, but we cannot overnight become unselfish. Right? So it's a process of development. Okay. So we start with a practice like Dhammanussati or Buddhanussati, which develops faith, and with that faith, then we know that it is a kusala, it's a wholesome action for us to practice generosity, also practice compassion, also practice loving kindness. And we do that long enough, then we find that that sense of self will just get smaller and smaller. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Brother Benny. Maybe hear from Sister Buddhini as well, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, Marceline, thank you. I will just share a few of my practices, see if that will help. For me, I sometimes consciously note how many times do I say me or I in a day. And with that, I also think whether I say that or think about myself, do I also think about others, So trying to change my thoughts towards you and we. Yeah. At the same time, be more considerate, because the principle of wholesomeness that the Buddha taught is doing something that is good to oneself and also to others. So while I want to be happy, I want to be enjoying what I wish for, also practice to see equality of others, other human beings, or other beings who also want happiness and don't want to experience sufferings. So consider the impact of my actions and my speech and my thoughts to other people's. For example, when I drive or when I park my car, I will consider whether if I park this way, would I block other people? If I drive in a certain way, do I bring danger or harm to other people? And Another practice that I found very useful is to anchor myself on the ultimate relative view. Sometimes when we have too strong of sense of self, we can think about who am I? What am I made of? I'm just made of 4 elements, elements of earth, fire, air, and water. And if I tear apart this body into 32 parts, I'm basically it's no one, and having that sense of impermanence also help, because I know that ultimately I will die. The body will break off, and the person who I'm arguing with also will eventually die, for example. So what's the point of holding to self? Yeah. So these are certain practices that I found quite useful for me. Hope to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Buddhini. So I think the next question we have, I'd like to direct it to Sister Buddhini. Is it true that Buddha also have doubts about his teaching as he asked other people to come and investigate?
Okay. Perhaps if you look at this question, another perspective is that the Buddha is extremely confident about his discovery of truth and his teaching of the truth. Yeah. Thus, the Buddha invited everyone to come and investigate at any time, because the result of the investigation will validate what he said, but not contradicting. Yeah. And the result will also be the same irrespective of time and space. Just like if a goldsmith sells pure gold, 100% pure, 24 karat gold, perhaps, then that goldsmith will be very confident about its purity and will even show and test the gold to the public. Yeah, but if he is selling not the pure gold, then he may be hesitant to let others see and test it out. So I think with this, we can see that the invitation is not because of the Buddha doesn't have confidence, but it's another way around. The Buddha extremely confident, and there were many proof, that many living examples who have walked the path and achieved that ultimate happiness and peace. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sister. We have a question from Sister Annie and Brother Mao from the chat box, also very related to these questions that we have just discussed. So I'll read it out here. One of the well-loved qualities is Ahibasiko, inviting investigation. And it is one of the qualities that attracted me greatly to the Dhamma. Yet, there are cases when the faith itself is very important, because investigation, given my current deluded mind, is not always easy, and I many times use just belief and love alone for the Buddha to convince myself. Is that a wrong way or a lower way to regard the Dhamma? Because sometimes too much investigation gives rise to vexation, or is that another wrong view to be corrected? I think open to both Brother Benny or Sister Buddhini.
Okay. Well, the question of Ahibasiko, as you rightly mentioned, is related to the first questions, because I think the essence of the Buddha's teachings is quite different from other religions that we have in this world, because it is not a revealed religion in a sense. It is a path, or it is a way where the Buddha spoke to us based on what he experienced. Right? So the experience part is very important. So of course, as I earlier mentioned, we have the 5 spiritual faculties. So we have faith, and you find that the faith should always be balanced with wisdom, right? So that is why, while it is important for us to cultivate faith, but if our faith is not properly balanced, then it may even become blind faith, right? So I think faith is important, but yet we have to understand whether our faith is rooted in understanding. Okay. In fact, the Buddha makes a distinction between 2 types of faith. One is what he called blind faith, or faith without roots. Faith without roots, amulika saddha, faith without roots. And the other one is called faith with roots, right? Akaravati. So basically what we should develop is faith which has got roots which are rooted in understanding. So when we have that, then whatever in our practice we have faith, then if we face some obstacles or some hindrances, then that wisdom part will be able to either continue to propel us in our practice, or ask us to hold back and try to reassess whether what our practice, is it right or is it not right? Should we change, right? Because if you remember, when the Buddha, for example, even in meditation, we said there are 40 different objects of meditation, and people are of different characters, right? Certain people, it is best you start with a teaching on loving kindness, compassion. Some people that may not be the best method. It does not mean that loving kindness and compassion is not important. It's just that depending on the individual attributes, individual characteristics of personality traits of a particular person, then we need to know what is the right approach for these people. Okay.
Yeah, Basila, I just add on. I think in this case, it's very important for us to know the level of Dhamma knowledge, Dhamma practice that we are on, and we have to consider, whether we have the wisdom at that point of time to understand certain teachings or understand certain practice. If we don't have, the faith will make us carry that through, and of course, with the spirit of openness, curiosity, learning and patience, we can always go and further clarify, go and gain the right knowledge, try it out, see what best work for us, and gradually we will understand the teachings and realize what the Buddha said. So I think these are the spirit. When we talk about investigation of Dhamma, it's a spirit of having that openness, curiosity, learning, patience, and courage to try on until we get the wisdom. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Sister Annie and Brother Mao for your question as well. So for the next one, I would like to seek Brother Benny for your guidance. The question is, sometimes we heard the statement, do not seek the Dhamma outward. Dhamma is from within or looking within. What is the meaning of this statement? Brother Benny? Okay.
Well, I think this is very common. We always hear this saying, right? The Dhamma is within us, right? For example, what this basically means is that the truth that the Buddha taught is not out there, but it can be realized by oneself. In fact, one of the characteristics of the six supreme qualities of the Dhamma. So it is something that we can experience within ourselves, right? Qualities like wholesome qualities like kindness, compassion, all right? It has to start with ourselves, right? It's within us, okay? And why did the Buddha say it's within us? Because the basic essence of Buddhist philosophy is that we have a luminous mind. That our mind we have a good mind, right? That's why in the Ahibasiko Sutta, the Buddha says the mind is luminous, and it is only defiled because of adventitious thoughts that come into our mind. So because of that, so we have that ability, that capacity, that potential, right, to be good, to do good, and to be good, right? So because of that, we always say the Dhamma is within us. It's not outside there. The Dhamma is not in the books that you read. It's not in the temple. It's not in the shrine. The Dhamma is also not in the Buddha statue that you find in the temples. But all those things are just to remind us that the Dhamma actually point towards ourselves, right? And you remember the saying that the Buddha gave to Vakali, he who sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. So if we see the Dhamma, if we practice the Dhamma in our everyday life, then we are actually like the Buddha. We have the mind of a Buddha. We are awake, right? Just like I always mention this, for those in the northern school who have this image of Kuan Yin, right? Who always say, "Oh, I pray to Kuan Yin," or Kuan Yin, I take refuge in Kuan Yin. Well, that's very good. But more important is you got to understand what Kuan Yin represents. Kuan Yin represents compassion. So if you practice compassion, you practice loving kindness, then obviously you are emulating Kuan Yin. So you are Kuan Yin within you. All right. But if you pray to Kuan Yin, but you don't practice compassion, so Kuan Yin is not within you. Kuan Yin is far, far away. Right. So likewise, the Dhamma is always within us. Right? So we have to internalize the qualities that we study, that we contemplate on, that we reflect, and so on. Right? So what good it is if we only talk about compassion, or what good it is if it is only when we are sitting on our meditation cushion that we radiate loving kindness and compassion. But once we are not sitting on our cushion, when we meet people, we only have words of anger for other people. We don't even lift a finger to help other people. There's no compassion. There's no loving kindness. Right? So it has to be internalized in our life.
Thank you, Brother Benny. That was really clear as well for all of us. So for the next question, we have received in the question box. I'll read it out here. Sometimes we tend to play victim all the time and no mindfulness to detach from cravings, hence we suffer. So how could Dhamma help so that we can have wholesome thoughts? Maybe Sister Buddhi, would you like?
Yes, I'll take this, Silun. I think first of all, when we think that we are playing, we are being the victim, then there is a sense of I, yeah. So there is a sense of I and he, another party, yeah, because that's how we compare and we feel that we are being victimized. In the Dhammapada, I recall the Buddha said, he beat me, he abused me, or he cheated me, or he abused me, and those who harbor such thought will not arrive at the state of peace. Yeah. So over here, if we keep on thinking the person is victimize us, or even the object is victimizing us. For example, we lost our sense of control towards certain things, like if there's sales, we overpurchase. When there is certain food that we like, we succumb to it, and when there are people who don't treat us well, then we also cannot control in terms of our negative emotion and unpleasant feeling towards them. So this bring us a lot of suffering, and I think present moment awareness is important to see that state of where we are. And we can also practice some sense of restraint in terms of our craving. Yeah, when we note, we are actually being pulled off by our habitual thoughts or habitual emotions that arise within us, we can stop, have a pause, and restrain. Yeah, we can also consider the danger of this craving. If we have seen ourselves repeatedly experience suffering because of this habitual tendency, or because of this habitual craving, then are we not scared? Can we rise above it and go through again that temptation with much wisdom, with much restraint, so that we can also arise through above the suffering? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister. The next question we have is around the theme of forgiveness. So, well expounded is the Dhamma by the Blessed One. We understand this and we know the teachings, but why is it we suffer when we are hurt by the actions of others? Why is it so difficult to forgive, let go, and make peace within and without? I think this we will, maybe Sister Buddhini like to go first, and then Brother Benny.
Okay. Yeah, I think when we talk about we understand, sometimes the understanding is only at the first level of understanding, which is intellectual level, pariyati. The essence of Buddha teaching needs to be practiced and need to be realized, which is the patipati and pativeda part. So perhaps when we see that we are still suffering because of that particular condition, we know truly that we have not gone beyond selfhood. Yeah, we still attached to the concept of self, and that's one part that we need to work on. So when we are suffering, I think the first very important key is to acknowledge that we are suffering now, and there are causes and conditions that cause us to suffer. And at the same time, we are hopeful that we know there is a choice to stop that suffering, and we know we can stop that. Yeah. How do we do it? Again, present moment awareness is important, and understand also that the hurtful experience have passed. Actually, it has passed, and we acknowledge the hurt as well. After the experience, what the suffering that arises within us is because we choose to revisit the experience again and again. Yeah. So pain, anger, hatred, yeah, will arise and fall. And they are the past thoughts, the past emotions. We are in the now, and we have the power of choice on what to do now. What good does it do to us, when the experience has gone, when the person is no longer around, for example, we are still holding on to the unpleasantness relating to that person, relating to that experience. So there you go. Yeah, practice that liberation and renunciation of unwholesomeness. Let it go, shake off the past, and we'll be feeling lighter and liberating, and peace will follow. Yeah, I think that's all for me for that.
Yeah,
Benny,
maybe,
would you like to add on?
Yeah, maybe I'll just add on to what Sister Buddhini mentioned. Some of you may be familiar with this parable in the Salata Sutta, where the Buddha talks about dealing with suffering. Remember the parable of the two arrows, how we can deal with suffering more skillfully. The Buddha says that anytime we suffer, two arrows actually fly our way. Right? Being struck by an arrow is painful, the first arrow, but being struck by a second arrow is even more painful. Now, what's the difference between this? So basically in life, we cannot always control the first arrow, right? For example, with birth, you got old age, sickness, death. That's painful, right? No one denies that that is suffering, but that's the first arrow, right? Or, praise and blame. Everybody like to be praised, but instead we don't always get praise. Sometimes we get blamed. We like to gain, but we don't always gain. Sometimes we have a loss, right? So there's suffering. So that's something that we really can't control. So in life, we can't always control the first arrow. But the second arrow is our reaction to the first, right? For example, if someone has always been praising us, but for some reason, today we got criticized, we got blamed, right? So that's the second arrow, right? So how do we react? So the second arrow is optional in that sense. Yeah. So suffering is optional in that sense. If we really understand the Buddha's teachings and we try to put it into practice. Okay. And this is also related to the question of forgiveness, right? So, for example, sometimes we suffer because we feel that someone has said something not nice to us, or somebody has did something not good to us, right? So as long as we cling to that, we hold on to that, we will continue to suffer, right? So this is where I think the issue of forgiveness, the issue of forgiving someone, right, who has done that, I think it becomes so important. Yeah, there's a story about these two Tibetans who were actually imprisoned the Chinese prison for many years, and after they were out, so then after many years, the two of them met again. So the first Tibetan asked the other person, he said, "Oh, have you forgiven your, the people who put you in prison?" So the second person said, "Never, I will never forgive them." All right. So the first person said, if you will never forgive them, you are still in prison. So as long as we do not let go of the past or the unhappy moments in the past, we will forever, be suffering. Right. So the important thing is to be able to let go. Right. To let go. Of course, it's easier said than done. So this needs practice, and the whole basis of Buddhist practice from understanding loving kindness and compassion, understanding that everybody is interdependent, and understanding that whatever bad thing that person did to us, he himself will also have to suffer because of his own karma. So there's a whole spectrum of understanding the Buddha's teaching. If we understand it, we rationalize it, we contemplate on it, then we realize that, yeah, it makes sense to let go. Okay?
Mr. Buddhini and Brother Benny. I can see a very nice questions coming in as well. We will also try to fit the questions in the themes that we have with previous questions we received. So we'll try to address them. So for the next one, on the questions, I'll read out this one. If a person has committed many bad deeds in the past, can he or she still attain sotapan or even gain right view in this very life? Because the result of past karma will block us from having right view and attain sotapan in this life. Maybe this one can direct to Brother Benny.
Okay. Well, I think many of you are familiar with the story of Angulimala, right? Angulimala, the story where he killed many people, and in the end he became one of the arahants, right? And then those of you who are familiar with Tibetan Buddhism, you may have heard of Milarepa, right? So you have another example there. Now, if a person has committed many bad deeds in the past, we are assuming that in the past he only committed bad deeds, right? But he would also have committed good deeds in the past, right? Because the Buddha says inconceivable is the beginning of beings in this cycle of birth and rebirth. So which means that we have countless innumerable lives in the past. In the past, we have done good things, we have done bad things, we have done very wholesome things, probably we have done very terrible things. Okay? Now that has already happened in the past. There's nothing we can do about that. It has already happened. What is important is this life itself, this present moment. That is why in Buddhism we always talk about the present. Now, what we do in the present, okay? And the Buddhist teachings of karma, all right, in the Tita Sutta, the Buddha says there are three wrong views, right? One of the wrong views is to attribute that everything that happens is because of past karma. Buddha said, if you adopt that attitude, then there's no spiritual progress. Because, then you will never be able to overcome all the terrible things that you have done countless lives in the past. Okay, so there is a possibility. It is possible for us to break that chain. So this present life is the most important, not the past. So in this present life, what is important again is for us to continue to do wholesome actions, to do good actions, so that whatever unwholesome actions in the past that would ripen would not have the necessary conditions to ripen. Okay, so I think the present is more important than what has happened in the past. All right, so he said that would the result of past karma block us from having right view? No. If in this present life, we have the opportunity to come in contact with the Dhamma, so we study the Dhamma, we learn the Dhamma, we practice the Dhamma, then we are in contact with right views. And because of our right views, then we are able to change, basically transform our mind. And you also know that the very essence of the Buddha's teaching is that things are impermanent. Things are subject to change. So likewise, even our defilements are also subject to change. You know, His Holiness the Dalai Lama always says, what is so beautiful about our defilements is that they are temporary. Right? In other words, we can transform our defilements. So that's the beauty of our defilements. We don't have to worry about our defilements. Imagine if our defilements cannot be permanent. They're not permanent. They can be transformed. They can be changed. So because of that faith that we have in the Buddha's teachings, because of that understanding we have, having right views, so we are very confident, we are very happy to continue to tread on the wholesome path and to change our future, to change our lives for the better. Okay? So we don't have to worry about what happens in the past.
Thank you. The next question here we have from the question box. Can the understanding of Dhammanussati help us to reduce or eradicate the Silabbata Paramasa, or the attachment to rites and rituals in our daily lives? Thank you. Maybe open to Sister Buddhini.
Okay, I think the understanding of Dhammanussati, if you understand that the Dhamma is for us, the Dhammanussati is one of the practice for us to cultivate the right faith, towards the three jewels, and in the path of purification, this attachment to rites and ritual is something that is to be abandoned. And while we do Dhammanussati, for example, we recollect the Dhamma, or we do Buddhanussati, we recollect the qualities of the Buddha, and we make offerings to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. If we really anchor our understanding and our offering, on the qualities of the Buddha rather than on the rites and rituals of why we do certain things, then we will be able to eradicate this Silabbata Paramasa. Otherwise, if we just do things without understanding, with blind faith, then we are deepening ourselves towards this attachment to rites and rituals.
Thank you, Sister. So next question we have previously received. This one is regarding ambition in life and karma. So it goes like this. If whatever we experience in life are due to karma, so there is no point of striving or working hard. This one is directed to Sister Buddhini. Sister Buddhini, may we seek your comments on this one?
I think we can refer this to Anguttara Nikaya number 3, this Tita Yatana Sutta, sectarian. The Buddha explained to the monk that, if a person or bhikkhu practice or thinks that whatever one experience is due to past karma, or is due to God's creation, or is because there's no causes and condition, everything happened by chance, these are indeed not the Buddha's teaching. These are indeed a wrong doctrine and wrong view. So with that, we know that the Buddha did not say that everything that we experience in life is due to karma. So in another teaching, the Buddha also taught about 5 niyamas, five worldly dhammas that govern how the universe works. So it's governed by this Utu Niyama, Bija Niyama, Kama Niyama, Citta Niyama, and Dhamma Niyama. So these are the 5 laws that govern how the universe works, and karma is only one of it. So it's only 20%. So it is not 100% based on the karma. And I think when we learn the Dhamma, when we decided to follow this path, especially on the Buddhist ethics area, we need to know that the Buddha said there is these 3-4 foundations. One is Kamavada, which what we do, what we do, what we say, what we think is actually advocated and by this moral law. Another one of it about practicing is Kriya-vada, that there is there's recognition of this efficacy of moral action. So we need to do it, and at the same time, Virya-vada means that the human effort in practicing this moral life is also very crucial in walking this path. Yeah. So thus it is not only about karma, and there is a point and there are benefits of striving hard towards this path. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. So one next question we have in chat from Michelle. How do we practice letting go? Brother Benny, would you like to take this one?
Well, how do we practice letting go? First of all, we need to understand what is it we need to let go, right? We need to let go of defilements. We need to let go of greed. We need to let go of anger. We need to let go of delusion. Then we need to ask ourselves, why do we need to let them go? Because if we don't let them go, then they will continue to give us anxiety, worries, and suffering of different types, right? So that's why we learn to let them go. And the other thing is that in the Buddha's teaching, the Buddha mentioned about these 8 worldly conditions, right? About gain and loss, praise and blame, and so on, right? So when we experience all these things in our everyday life, right? If we don't have a proper perspective of the nature of existence, then we will experience for ourselves a lot of suffering. Right? So the Buddha says 3 things we have to remember. Things are uncertain because they are impermanent. Because they are uncertain, so they are unsatisfactory. And because they are uncertain, they are unsatisfactory. And when we cling to it, right, then obviously we will be unhappy. Right? For example, we want to be praised. We don't want to be blamed. We don't want to be criticized. We want to be praised. Now, if we don't learn to let go, even praise, then what happens is when praise comes, we may be so excited by praise that when praise is no longer there, we cannot accept it. There are many people who can only accept praise but not blame, and many people are like that. But if you understand the nature of phenomena, all right, then you find that if there's praise, there will always be blame at some stage. But that does not mean that we cannot appreciate praise. It does not mean that. It means that when somebody praises us, then we appreciate it. But we are not attached to it. We do not cling to that praise. We know deep in our mind, at the back of our mind, because of understanding of the Dhamma, that today we are praised, tomorrow we may still be praised, but the third day we may not be praised. Okay, fine. If we are not praised, then we can accept it. That's the nature of our life. And for example, if we are blamed, so instead of getting upset, we could do 2 things. We could explore why we are blamed. What is the reason we are blamed? All right. If the reason we are criticized is justified, then we tell ourselves, okay, there's something that I've learned. If it is something a mistake that I've made, okay, I ask for forgiveness, right, from the other party. I ask for forgiveness. But if after reflection, I realize that I don't think I did anything wrong, it was just a misunderstanding, it's okay. So I try to explain the real situation. Okay, so I'm not attached to it. I'm able to let it go. Right. So that is a gradual process. Right. So we do it step by step. And what is the first step that we do is to recognize that nothing in this world of ours is permanent. It's always subject to change. Right? And because it is always subject to change, it is unsatisfactory. And there's no, and we should not be attached to this false concept of a self. Right? So if we can understand these 3 things, then I think that's the first step in our practice of trying to let go.
Actually, I can add on a little bit. Letting go is always a challenge to many of us. It's not by singing the song "Let It Go, Let It Go" that we'll be able to let go. It's easy to say, but sometimes it's really not so easy to do it. I think what Brother Benny said about knowing what we are attaching to and the reasons why is very important. Knowing our tendency of our mind, we like and attach to what give us pleasantness, and we don't like or resist to whatever things that give us unpleasantness. So if we see that conditions that happen or what we experience is just due to causes and condition that leads to it, and we don't label it. I try not to label things on what I like and what I don't like, because that will add on to the attachment and repulsive towards certain things. Just see that experience, and then also see the benefit of letting go, see the danger of not letting go. That perhaps can make us more rationalized in our choice, in our decision. I remember the story of many kids, before they enter school, the parents always tell them, you must let go of your milk bottle because you are going to school, you can't bring milk bottle to school. And and by knowing whether we can let go, it is important, because I've seen many parents also force the children to let go of their milk bottle, and that causes a lot of suffering. They cry, they were, and we ourselves, as long as we know what are we strongly attached to, what we are not so strongly attached to, then we start from the easier one first, and from there slowly and practice gradually, so that the whole process can be more at ease, and we can see ourselves that we are also progressing. Thank you.
Maybe it just reminds me, I remember this quote from His Holiness the Dalai Lama about letting go. He says, open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values. Don't let go of your values. So which means that we let go of the unwholesome things, right? It doesn't mean that you let go of everything then, So don't let go of your values. And what makes us progress on the spiritual path will be the values that we follow, or the principles, right? So don't let go of your value, right? Yes, we let go of the defilements or the negative. Okay.
Thank you, Brother Benny and Sister Buddhini. Very, really profound. Even myself also learned a lot from such a, simple, but actually it's very covers a lot of parts for letting go. So really grateful for that. The next question we have is regarding gambling. So I'll read it out here. Is gambling, for example, buying lottery, 4D, mahjong, etc., is this considered as heedlessness? What if this is the person's livelihood?
I think I will take this question first.
Okay.
When we consider about right livelihood is what we do, to earn a living, and also what is the impact to the society or to other people. So I think back to the principle of wholesomeness, whether this bring benefit to us and to other people. Ultimately, if we see that it does not bring benefit, then we know that we should try to refrain. So and these actions cause heedlessness. For example, gambling, it is actually believing by chance, believing with earning or winning by chance. All these will actually cause a heedlessness, and not diligent effort, as what the Buddha preached. Then we try not to get involved. If we are already in it, then try our best effort, by knowing the harm and the danger, to stop if we can. If we still have to do that, by certain condition we are unable to escape, then we have to recognize and know exactly that will be some unwholesome karma that comes with this kind of actions. Yeah, so there will be implications out of this wrong livelihood. Yeah, so I think that's my view for now.
Thank you, sister. Yep, I can see quite some questions coming in very much. I think the next question is from Danny's iPhone. It's directed to Brother Benny. I think maybe need some further clarification, but I'll read it out here. So, Brother Benny, may I have your view on abstaining from taking things not given, the second precept? If one with own hard work and by earning it takes it, will this still be observing this second precept? Example, promotion, awards, or recognition, as if one does not take them, others will, as is not given in today's conditions. Yep, that's the question for Brother Benny.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the question. May I have your view on abstain from taking things not given? So the question is, if one, through your hard work, and you earn it, you take it. Well, so there's one part of the question, right? Will this still be observing the precepts? Well, it's through your hard work, you earn it, it is yours. So of course, it's observing the precepts. You are not taking things that does not belong to others, right? Then you mentioned about example, promotion, awards, recognition. As if one don't take it, others will, as is not given in today's condition. I'm not too sure if I really understand the second part. You're saying that Danny, are you saying that you are promoted or you are given an award, but you don't take it, and others, then it's given to others? It's got nothing to do with you breaking any of your precept, right? Just that you turn down a promotion, which is also quite common. I've known of people who were given promotions, but they say, sorry, thank you, I'm quite happy where I am. So if he doesn't take that promotion, he doesn't take the awards, I don't think he breaks any precepts. If I understand your question correctly.
Thank you, Brother Benny. For Brother Danny, if you like to clarify, you can type in the chat box. We also try to address it if we haven't answered your question. So I have a question about faith here from Tian Kun. He has a person's faith changed to a new religion. I think maybe from Buddhism to another religion. Are there any more ways we can bring back this person to the Buddha Dhamma? I think it's quite a heavy question, Sister Buddhini or Brother Ben.
Okay, I think this happens, to our circle of friends sometimes. For me, I will see what is the reason perhaps this person is changing faith. Perhaps in the very beginning, the person may not have faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and just follow whatever good teachings that he is being introduced to, for example. Or sometimes the person would change faith or because following friends, following people who can provide them the things that they need. Friendship, love, care, yeah, or sometimes even financial support, yeah. So and in this case, perhaps it's because the person can provide a solution to the problem or the challenges that he or she face. Yeah. So I think we need to be very clear about what causes that, and learn from experience. If this give us some wisdom about why, then in order to prevent that, we can better deal with such a scenario or help those who in need that face this kind of problem in the future. And for this person, if we can also spread the spirit of mudita, rejoice over her stage of overcoming her suffering now, and rejoice over what she is experiencing, and be happy for that person. So as long as, for me, it's as long as they are not dwelling themselves into something which is very, very wrong. So we can still feel rejoice towards them. And of course, have towards people who possess different faith, it doesn't mean that we cannot share with them the Dhamma, because the Dhamma is still the ultimate truth that brings happiness and peace. So when we can still be friends, and when we meet, we still can discuss the Dhamma. We still can share the way on how to live a better and happier life still. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. So for the next one we have here, I will read out. It's quite a long question regarding learning the Dhamma, sharing the Dhamma. So it goes like this. We may have learned and understood the Dhamma, but often find difficulties to share the Dhamma with others. What are skillful ways or means to share the Dhamma so that others can also benefit from the learning? This one, maybe Brother Benny, you'd like to take this, and maybe after that, Sister Buddhini.
Yeah. Well, I think this question is also in a way related to the earlier one. What is the skillful ways to share the Dhamma so that others can benefit from the learning, right? I think the most skillful way is our own practice, our own behavior, right? For example, if we want to share the Dhamma, you want to talk about, for example, about compassion or kindness or generosity. So we ourselves must be able to manifest those good qualities. Because if we don't, then you're not going to convince anybody, right? Okay, so I think the best way to convince or to share the Dhamma with others is to share the wonderful qualities that the Buddha has taught and which we ourselves are actually following. If we do that, before long, people is going to realize, we're going to ask, why is Mr. So-and-so or Brother so-and-so behaving in such a manner? Because his value system, like just now I mentioned, you can let go of many things, but don't let go of your values. Right? I mean, not me, His Holiness, the Dalai Lama said that. I'm just quoting His Holiness. So we let go of our defilements, we let go of our bad habits, but we don't let go of our values, the good value systems that we all have. And if we stay true to all those values that we have, I think it's a matter of time when people will be very attracted to our demeanor, to our good nature, and to our good behavior. So I think that's the best way that you can you can share the Dhamma with others. Right? That's the way I would look at it.
Yeah, I agree with what Brother Benny said. The best skillful way is to share through our behaviors and transformation. Let our other people see the manifestation of Dhamma in our behavior and lifestyle. And when we share the Dhamma, I think one of the things that we can focus on is also knowing the mental disposition of the person. We got to know whether what is the inclination of this person. Does he incline to goodness or not? Is he a faith-based person or intellectual person? Then we share accordingly, and whether the person is willing to commit himself in terms of time and effort in the Dhamma, then we anchor ourselves in the right Dhamma and relevant skill as well, because the Dhamma can be shared via so many ways, and then we share sincerely with them, with that person in mind. Sometimes what we thought the best for that person may not be the best for him and her. So what we can do is that focus on the outcome, focus on the solution, of non-suffering, non-attachment, and we can show the direction and give them option on what are the ways that we can practice. giving a metaphor. For example, if you want to go to Singapore or the person want to go to Singapore, then we can share about the direction. Like you head south. Then there are many options for you to reach Singapore. You can go by bus, you can go by flight, train, car. So it is really depending on the person's time, budget, medical condition, and other kind of condition on what he choose to arrive at that destination. So I think that is what I thought about sharing Dhammas with others. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, which we received in the previous weeks, is regarding the Opanayiko quality of the Dhamma. It's not in the chat box, but I'll read it out here. So this question is directed to, maybe you can seek Brother Benny for your guidance. Opanayiko, when meditators contemplate what already exists within them. Also is Opanayiko, bring the mind inward to investigate body, speech, and mind. So the question is, when we put in effort to investigate, examine, contemplate the characteristics, reality, at this stage of the Patibheda or the realization stage, then we can experience leading onward progression, which is Opanayiko. So for Brother Benny.
Sure. I think the answers is already found in your question. Your answers are also there, because the word itself, leading onwards, if we start with right views, right, through our proper study of the Dhamma, we practice, we have right views, we practice the wholesome qualities. The more we practice the wholesome qualities, then we will find that our habitual tendencies, our behavior, our character are also eventually change. All right, so that will naturally change. Right, just as if you move the other direction, you start with the unwholesome qualities, then your character, your behavior, your tendencies will also change the other direction. Okay, so I think as you have mentioned in your question itself, if we have right views and we know what is wholesome, what is unwholesome, when we practice those that is wholesome, that will naturally lead to happiness, peace, calmness, tranquility, serenity, right, and even joy and happiness. So all those things are experienced inward, isn't it? Yeah, inward kind of experiences, right? And that is only possible if you have right views about what is wholesome, what is unwholesome, what are positive values from the Buddhist perspective, and then you put it into practice. And over a period of time, you will be able to see that it will lead onwards towards a particular direction, right? And that direction is towards peace and happiness and so on. Okay.
Thank you, Brother Benny. So the next question we have in the chat box is: learning from Pali Canon the correct Dhamma? It's a short one.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this person is asking. I'm assuming this person is asking if we learn the Pali text and we get the correct Dhamma. Yeah. I think first of all is that the language, in terms of the command of the language, we have to make sure we are really having that command of Pali language. Then only you can get the right Dhamma. However, essentially the Dhamma is not in the words itself. Yeah, the Dhamma is the truth that we need to experience. Yeah, so the words, whether in Pali or in English or in Mandarin, may guide us towards the way to practice. Yeah, but whether that Dhamma will manifest or whether that Dhamma will unfold in us will really depends on how we practice it. If we practice it correctly, then it will lead to the result. That's what the Buddha said. But if we even after we read so many suttas, so many Pali canon, but if we do not apply it correctly, practice correctly, then it would not lead to that result that the Buddha has promised. Yeah. So I think language itself is just one part of it. Yeah.
But is the I'm not sure this question is from whom, but or is it the question asking whether is learning from the Pali Canon, or is it the question being asked is whether the correct Dhamma is only from the Pali Canon? Is that the question, or what Sister Buddhini mentioned is absolutely correct in that sense, but I'm just also thinking whether the person is asking whether
whether Pali Canon contain the purest and correct Dhamma.
Is that the question? I'm not sure.
Maybe Babani can address in this way.
Okay. Well, the Pali Canon actually, was compiled and written down, as you all know, right? After many hundreds of years. Because before we have what is written down, you only have the oral tradition, isn't it? You only have the oral tradition. Now, why we always in the Theravada tradition, the Pali Canon is very important because that's where the teachings for the school are preserved. Okay, but there are also many other canons. You got the Chinese canon, you got the Tibetan canons, you got the Pali canon, you got in the Tibetan canon, you got the Kanjo, and then you got the Tenjo, which is the commentaries, and then in the Chinese you got the Taisho. So there are a lot of canons, right? But what we are saying is that the Pali canon is the most complete extant scriptures that we have in one collection, right? Whereas in the Tibetan canon, you don't have one complete. So now, is that the only correct one? I don't know. Bhikkhu Analayo, for example, he has studied the Pali canon. He has, when we say Pali canon, we're talking about the Nikayas, right? The four main Nikayas, the long Nikayas, the middle length Nikayas, the connected Nikayas, and then the gradual Nikayas. So he has also studied the Chinese Nikayas, which is called the Agamas, right? So we have the Pali Nikayas found in the Pali canon. We also have the Chinese Agamas, which are mainly in another school called the Savastivada school. Now, in the Agamas, if you read many of Bhikkhu Analayo's translations, and you find that there's a lot of similarities in what is taught in the Pali canon and what is taught in the Sanskrit in the Agamas, right? So that's one perspective. So we should have a very holistic view, right? Rather have a dogmatic view and say only the Pali canon is a correct Dhamma, right? But even His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he wrote a foreword to Bhikkhu Bodhi's book In the Buddha's Words. In the Buddha's Words, the compilation of Pali scriptures, right? Compilation. So in the introduction that His Holiness wrote in Bhikkhu Bodhi's book, he mentioned that irrespective of whatever tradition that you may come from, whether you're Chinese Mahayana, Tibetan, it's always good to start with the Pali canon. All right? So that gives you the importance of where the Pali canon provides you a very firm foundation for subsequently, if you're interested in Tibetan, it's fine. You're interested in Chinese Buddhism, it's fine. But the Pali canon will be the firm foundation that you should have. Okay?
The next question, I think we have time for one more. Is it a correct understanding that Noble Eightfold Path teaches us to take away our defilement? Maybe this one we can get Sister Buddhini for your guidance.
Thanks, Vasilin. The answer is yes. But I just elaborate a little bit more. Yes, this Noble Eightfold Path is a path of purification. Purify ourselves from what? Greed, hatred, and delusion. Yeah, the nature of our mind is bright and illuminating. However, throughout these experiences that we encounter in samsara, yeah, and because of the unwholesome roots that we have within us, these defilements or these unwholesome root cause this mind to be tainted. Yeah. So the teaching of the Buddha is to help us to eradicate this taint, to stop this defilement, to take out and make ourselves becoming, returning to its natural state of bright and illuminous. And that is a process of awakening, and that leads to the noble stage of the 4 stages of sainthood. And that is also the path that lead us to Nibbana, the ultimate happiness and peace. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Buddhini. So we're really thankful to have all these interesting questions from the previous weeks as well as today. So dear brothers and sisters, we are coming to the end of the Dhamma Chat. We would like to invite Sister Buddhini to share with us some concluding messages from today's Dhamma Chat. Sister Buddhini.
Thank you, Vasudhan. I think I just follow through from the Noble Eightfold Path just now. As I said, this is the path of enlightenment. While we walk in the right direction, wisdom will grow because the Dhamma will unfold here and now. Yeah, and when we see it, our wisdom will grow. We will also experience this sense of ease, sense of freedom, liberation, awakening, and peace. So does this quality leads to the final destination. And as we practice, we have this Dhamma Vichaya, investigate the Dhamma, investigate the causes and conditions that lead us to the current states, whether the happy state or the suffering state. When we know what causes us to that, then we know what leads us to progress and digress. And with this, we can make conscious choices to decide on the way we thought, the way we think, the way we speak, and the way we behave. So that we can align to achieve to the condition that we always ambition for. So I think this is my sharing for everyone's reflection. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister. Brother Benny, would you like to add on any thoughts as well for this session?
Well, no, I think we have spoken enough. It's just to mention that if we practice the Noble Eightfold Path, we don't have to worry about taking away defilements, because defilements will just disappear. Right? Don't have to worry about taking. So I think you can't go wrong if you practice the Eightfold Path. Okay. All the best.
Thank you, Brother Benny, and as well as Sister Buddhini. Really, thank you for taking time to share with us the Dhamma today in this very fruitful chat. Let us all fold our palms and say sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.